What's going on, SWAC fans? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the SWAC podcast. And we have a special guest with us here on the State of the SWAC podcast. We have from ESPN, we have Jay Skywalker. Jay, what's going on?
What's going on? Always good to talk to the SWAC folks. It's y'all time of year. Been a fantastic spring, and I'm glad I could join you here, TJ.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Just to talk a little bit about SWAC football. Like you just mentioned, I mean, SWAC football has taken over the spring, and a lot of the guys that, that play SWAC football are really getting some eyes on them, like eyes they normally wouldn't get. And Jay, you had opportunity to watch some of these guys. What did spring football, in your opinion, do for SWAC football this season?
I think it carried over the momentum that the SWAC had built. I think if you look at the champion, the terms of news stories and being relevant during the in-between season, there was a SWAC. I mean, with Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman coming over, that was huge news. You didn't think it could get bigger than that. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, you add Deion Sanders into the mix, and then you realize that the national TV contract, they're the only ones playing nationally televised games through the ESPN family and network. So it got to shed a lot of light on them. And I think give credit to Commissioner McClellan. He kept it going. He kept it moving, said we're going to have this championship game. And right now, all eyes are on the SWAC championship game. So you got to see some players that might have had good weeks before, but they might have got lost in the national stage. Yeah. But now, those guys, when they balled out, people knew who they were, and they were getting all the attention. There was a lot of long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that the SWAC is getting a lot of eyes on them. I mean, I'm being introduced to guys that I probably wouldn't see. And, and the thing about it is, like you said, it's not because these guys aren't talented. It's just the fact that you look at some of these power conferences. I mean, you look at the Alabama, the LSUs, the Clemsons. Sometimes those guys take a lot of attention away from some of these guys that are really doing some tremendous things. And I'm glad that they're actually getting these opportunities. But, one name that you did mention was Deion Sanders, the coach of Jackson State University. You had an opportunity to watch Jackson State quite a bit, called a couple of their games. What has Deion Sanders meant to the HBCU football, in your opinion?
I think he's meant a lot, to be honest. When I talked to him, when we had a face-to-face, I actually told him, I said, you know what? I'm going to thank you. Being an alumnus of an HBCU, having played at HBCU, regardless of all the stuff that happens, I'm going to thank you for sharing your star with us. He's got star power. Yeah. The fact that he was willing to share it with us. I mean, he could have gone to, Florida Atlantic or, some other FIU schools like that, but he chose to share his star with the HBCU world, and then kind of bought in to everything that was going on in Jackson, and also some of the inconsistencies between the Power 5 schools or the major schools, the white schools, and the HBCU. So yeah. I was thankful that he was able to share his star, willing to do that. He took his lumps, at the end of the day. I mean, Jackson State, he was a head coach there for a reason. They were a 2-9 ball club, and they kind of showed that. But they showed some fight. And I think, the games that we were playing, I mean, we showed so much Jackson State. It wasn't because the football team was that good. Coach Prime, and he did what he's supposed to do. And curious to see how it's going to play out in the future. In the future, moving forward, he's got some guys on that team, that did not play this year. I saw it firsthand. So he's kind of like, hey, beat me now, but the competitive nature in him will come out next year. But also, I mean, it's HBCU. Nothing's going to be easy, especially not in this SWAC. I mean, this new SWAC has gotten stronger and stronger. Y'all actually may win a Celebration Bowl now.
Well, hopefully, that is the case. Me being an alumni of Jackson State University, I mean, I went there from 2005 to I graduated in 2008. Started off at Dillon University. I got displaced due to Katrina. I ended up going to Jackson State. So my memory of me graduating was the last time they actually won a SWAC championship. So, I mean, it's been a while since that happened. But I would be hard pressed not to.
I think when they won the SWAC championship, was that when they had was Jimmy the quarterback? Jimmy Oliver was
the quarterback. Yeah, that's it's been a while, man. Yeah, but look, I gotta ask you this. Since we talking about Jackson State, you got a lot of people out of Jackson that think that you're very critical of Jackson State, and they feel as if you have something against the university. So is there like a vendetta against Jackson State? How do you feel about the school as a whole? Because people, they really think that you have something against the school.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're doing your job right, people are gonna think that, because no school's perfect. No school's perfect at all. And when you say something, and here's what the funny part about it. I was telling myself, and I was talking to Tiffany Green. We were talking about. I said during the season, at the beginning, I talked about how good those wide receivers were. Called them the best wide receiving core in the conference. I thought they were playing that well. I thought the quarterback was playing really well. Jalen Jones was getting it done. I thought that they had some. They needed to work on the defensive line pressure, but I said, hey, the coaching staff's bringing the best out of them. When the defense was getting high, I said, Dennis Thurman's getting good. So I'm like, if I give props to your head coach, your quarterback, your wide receivers, everybody else, and y'all were 3-0, and I gave credit to going to Grambling and winning 3-0, I said, man, what's going to happen when they lose? So I'm giving them all these passes. Stop worrying about what I'm saying. It's my job to analyze. And that's the school of Walter Payton and Lynn Barney, and so many folks I've known that have gone there. Marlo Perry was my guy, Fernando Smith. So I have nothing against any school at all. But when you gotta, it's my job to be critical sometimes and to talk about things that aren't getting done. And the key is it's like you talk about how great Jackson State is, but am I a hater when I say there's one school in Mississippi that don't care how good Jackson State is? Right. And we all know that. That's Alcorn.
Alcorn,
exactly. So I said, oh, why you got to hate? I'm not hating. I'm just calling the facts. So it goes back and forth. I take it with a grain of salt, man. It's all I got nothing against no institution. Only one I might have had a little problem with would have been Hampton, because I went to Howard. Besides that, I don't know. It's all HBCU love. A rival's a rival.
Yeah, I kind of thought you was going in that direction. You graduated from Howard. Yeah, but I mean, I understand how you feel. On top of doing the State of the SWAC, I do a podcast called The State of the Saints. I focus on the team, and in New Orleans, like Drew Brees is like God out there. Like anytime like you talk about Drew Brees, talk about how great he is, everybody's on board. If he goes out there and he doesn't play well, then all of a sudden, like, what you talking about, Drew? Like, so. Sometimes you got to be critical. It's nothing personal, but I just feel like you're actually, you're doing your job, and you got to do your due diligence. You got to call a spade sometimes. And I think that if you're looking at Jackson State, I think we can agree. There was some holes defensively. It was hard for them to get to the quarterback. Running backs was slicing through the defense like Swiss cheese from occasionally. So you got to call a spade. Like. I love Jackson State. I bleed blue and white, but you got to call it for what it is. And
here's what kind of got to me. I don't think people saw the big picture. Like, you looked at our schedule. We had Jackson State 5 times,
right?
In the spring, 5 times. So, are we going to tell the same Jackson State story over and over again, or do you spread it out? So I thought, like, hey, you know what? If Jackson's playing Grambling, this is the only time we're going to see Grambling this year. Let America know about Grambling, everything that's going on. If Jackson's going to play Alabama A&M, let them know about A&M. If they're going to play Mississippi Valley, let them know about Mississippi Valley. Share it. And then, at the end, we were like, hey, when we go down to Jackson, which we knew we were doing in person, it's going to be all Jackson State. And that's all we're going to talk about. So I thought it was my duty to say, you know what? There's some schools that nobody else in America has probably even heard of sometime. Right. You got to educate them a little bit on that. You got to let them know that Robert Mathis went to Alabama A&M and John Stallworth. So you go to Grambling. I thought it was historic. Deion going to Grambling. Well, you got to talk about Grambling, all those legends. And so some people say, oh, you didn't show us any love. We had y'all for 5 weeks. 5 weeks. I don't know if there's another Jackson State story we could talk about that we didn't talk about, but it was all good. Like I said, Deion tried to share his star. I was sharing the national platform we had with the rest of America to know about these different SWAC schools.
Yeah, and I think a lot of schools, a lot of alumni, a lot of students of those schools appreciate that, because, the star power that Deion Sanders have, sometimes that can overshadow the guys on the other side of football. Like, for example, when they played Southern, Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis is an incredible defensive player. Yep. A guy that, could possibly, play on Sunday. If he's going in the right direction. He led the FCS in sacks. Now, quite honestly, if we're, like you said, if you're just focusing on Jackson State, which I understand, but if you weren't like telling people about Jordan Lewis, probably you saying that probably were like, man, let me look this kid up and let me look a little bit closer if you're a scout in a front office somewhere looking at him. So I can understand that, especially like you said, since you had Jackson State consistently over the last 5 weeks. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, at the same time, we highlighted, some of the guys at Jackson State going into the year. We knew Keontae Hampton was going to be that dude, and whenever he played, we talked about him. Even did a little special on him, to talk about what he was doing. Right. The wide receiver core. We talked about those guys. Warren Newman, the kid from New Orleans down there, who was spectacular. Talked about him going to be a CEO one day. Mr. Titan on the field, but his leadership ability. So I think it was a great spring football season. And as for the other schools, I always say, hey, I'm gonna try and educate folks best I can on them. If they got an opinion on me one way or the other, I'm all right with that. I got thick skin. I'm fortunate enough to be able to see these schools up close and personal. But I've never won or lost a football game now. That's down on the field with the coaches. I'm in the booth. I'm undefeated. I'm winless, but I'm also I'm also undefeated up there too. So it comes down to the players and giving them the light they deserve.
Yeah, but that's what it's all about, and that just comes with being a broadcaster. Sometimes people are gonna love it. People are gonna love what you say. Then you're gonna have people that's not gonna love what you say. But you just gotta continue to give people the truth. And continue to speak, and we appreciate that. But final question: we're talking about Deion Sanders. We're talking about legendary players. We've seen also Tennessee State hiring Eddie George, and we also hear about people like former great players like Ed Reed and Ray Lewis having coaching aspirations. What do you think about these great players, these legendary players that we remember, coming to schools like HBCUs and using their star power to try to elevate the conference? Do you have an issue with that?
I'm looking, I'm gonna play it out to see if their heart's truly in the right place. Then I'll be okay with with Coach Prime, Deion down there. I got it. At first you're like, really, is he leaving? But then when he buys in and you see what he's trying to do for the school, the university, surrounding area, he'd been a coach before. First thing that comes to my mind, I don't ever think of Eddie George wanting to coach. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I don't know him personally, but when you go down to Tennessee State, you got to realize what's going on at Tennessee State. That's a school, they're HBCU playing in a majority white conference. Haven't been competitive in a while. It's been tough for an HBCU to win in that conference, and I don't think it's because Rod Reed was a bad coach. I think there's a lot of things that take place there. So, it's kind of a unique. And when Deion was hired at Jackson, after we saw it working, I remember we were having an ESPN call, and I was like, I just challenged him. I said, name me another person you think could do this, what he's doing. If there was anybody modern era who could do it, because let's not forget, guys like Doug Williams came home. Doug Williams started coaching HBCU, Morehouse, and took Grambling to a higher level. But we're like, okay, could Jerry Rice do it at Valley? Maybe, maybe not. But it's not a sure thing. And then I remember telling everybody, I said, only person I think I can see doing it of the magnitude of a Deion is a Ray Lewis. Yeah. I actually had no idea he was interested in coaching anything else. I was like, a Ray Lewis getting involved in something like this could be interesting to see, because what he's done since his playing days and how he's still respected by everybody, and the younger generation knows him. So the verdict's out. I'm not going to pass judgment on Eddie George. I think we'll see how that turns out. I do know that when that Southern Heritage Classic going to be something, isn't it?
Yeah.
How about Jackson playing Tennessee State up there in Memphis? Oh my goodness! Get your tickets now if you don't have them. That's going to be a big ticket game there, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, like my brother would say, that take gonna be hotter than fish grease.
That fish grease gotta be hot too. It's gotta be popping.
Yeah. But I agree with you, Jay. I'm just like, as long as they're not doing it for nefarious reasons. I used the example on the last podcast. It's almost like, okay, you graduate from college and you go into an entry level job, and you're just using that to build your resume to move on to a better position to maximize your portfolio. Mm-hmm. That's what I have an issue with. But if you go in there, like you said, and you're buying into the program, you really want to bring change to that program, I'm for it, but I don't feel like you should use the HBCU platform because, you feel like they're willing to give you that first opportunity. I just feel like if you're not into it, if you're trying to just use this to try to, I don't know, coach Miami, or coach some other power conference school, then I'm not for that, and I understand that coaches, when they start to win, they start getting phone calls because teams want to get some of that in their programs, but I don't feel like that should be your overall intentions. Okay. So if that's the case, then
that's a tough one. That's where the only part I slightly disagree with you on that is we all know nationwide there's a shortage of black coaches coaching FBS football. Right. Everybody's arguing, you got how many black coaches are in the Big 12? How many you have in the SEC? Head coaches. So there's a number of black coaches trying to get this opportunity. So if you got to prove you can do it wherever you get an entry-level job from, we all heard that Deion wanted to coach at Florida State, and they said you don't have any experience. Well, all right. So if Deion becomes a coach at Florida State, are we mad? Because the numbers went up, and he helped Jackson. So that's why I was like, it's a two-edged sword. I'm sensitive to the guys that are trying to get there that have been assistant coaches so long, and they want their chances, very sensitive and sympathetic to those folks. Mm-hmm. But then I can't knock guys for trying to build their resume so that we can increase. And we all know we need to do this, increase the number of minority coaches there are in big-time college football.
Yeah. Well, I do think, I agree there is a shortage, with these head coaches in major college football. But I agree, they need more coaches. But what I'm saying is I don't agree with the fact that if you're just trying to use this platform, I don't know. It's like if you just, okay, I'm just going to come here just for a little while. I win a couple games. Let me just get up out of here. I really just feel like if you're going to be there, and like I said, I understand. We see this all the time with coaches, right? We seen it at Florida State with Jimbo Fisher, right? Jimbo Fisher coached at Florida State, leaves, go to Texas A&M. And we seen this, coaches, you get a job, they start winning, they go somewhere else. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, Jimbo Fisher was all in. He won a national championship with Florida State with Jameis Winston and all these other guys, Jalen Ramsey. So I just feel like if you're all in, if you use HBCUs as entry levels, and then all of a sudden, okay, I'm starting to win, I'm buying in, I left it better than it was, then I don't have no problem with that. But I'm talking about just people that just know for a fact, okay, I'm just gonna do this. Let's just win a couple games. Let me get up out of here. And I don't agree with that. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think being an HBCU guy, once you touch those kids in the locker room, you never forget that. I think I'm hoping when they're there, they're gonna realize that they're gonna have a lifetime bond with it. Whatever happens with Deion in the future, I think he'll have some type of lifetime bond with Jackson State, knowing what the HBCU culture is like, knowing some of these other coaches he's got to meet. But at the end of the day, we can't judge that. It's a trend that's going right now. Do I think it's going to stop? No, I don't. So get ready for it. Another key, let's make sure they just leave it better than what they were. You're an alumnus of Jackson State, so if Deion left tomorrow, is Jackson State in a better place than it was before he got there? I'd say yeah. A lot of people know about Jackson State now.
Right.
We're getting fields done there and all them uniform combinations. How'd you like the red uniforms? I always like to ask.
I actually like the red uniform. Look, I'm not one of those people that's all about nostalgia. I like change. I like things that are different. I think that. I mean, you have to look at the modern times, right? You think about the Oregon Ducks, right? I think that their uniform concepts is one of the main reasons that attract some of these high schoolers to go there. Yep. People like that kind of stuff. I mean, just think about all these different combat uniforms that are coming out right now. Yeah. These guys like to, like they say, you look good, you know what I'm saying? You feel good, you play good, so I don't have an issue with that. I'm not one of those nostalgic people like that. So I like change.
It had to grow on me. I mean, because I remember I was on the airplane going down there, and there was a guy that walked on, and he had the traditional JSU hat, that plain blue with a white J.
Right.
I was like, that's Jackson State. Now, to me, there's no doubt. That's Jackson State. Mm-hmm. And then somebody came on a little bit later, and they had the new one, the hat with the white letters still, but it had the red trim around it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, to me, that ain't Jackson State, but that's Jackson State. But then I was like, all right, and we talked to Coach Prime about it. He was saying that, you know what? Exactly what you said. Yeah. These kids, they like them uniform combinations. Yep. They want all that bling. They want to mix it up. And kids, they love the red. Then I started hearing more from people saying, oh, yeah, we like that red. We like to mix it up. And so it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting storyline. I had nothing to do with it. I just put the question out there hey, I know Jackson State folks are feeling some way about this red,
Yeah.
and then it just took a life of its own. But that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with that at all. I understand it. I think that they use those type of uniform concepts as recruiting tools and stuff like that. So no issue there. But let's talk about the Southern job. Okay, there's an opening right now. Dawson Odoms decides to leave Southern University. Left it, like we said, better than what he found it. And he goes to Norfolk State. Now there's a vacancy. Alabama A&M coach Cornell Maynard was leaked to the job. He said that he didn't go out to Southern. There was a report that said he went out to Southern to interview for the job. But as of right now, they don't have a head coach. What type of coach is Southern looking for? Like what if you're looking at a coach, right? Some of the guys that you hear out there, I hear Lionel Washington, he's an assistant. You look at some of these other coaches out here. What kind of coach does Southern need to actually build off what Coach Odoms left behind?
Southern is one of the most peculiar jobs in the country. It really is for HBCU. I mean, they've got a great fan base, right? But they got the most finicky fan base I've ever seen. I mean, they did not love Dawson Odoms now. Let's be honest now. Every 2 years, they were threatening his job almost.
Oh, man.
So, and for the success, and I said it during the broadcast, one thing about Southern, sometimes they don't appreciate you till you're gone. I mean, they fired Pete Richardson. They fired some good coaches before. So it's kind of with that there. It's like you have to have a thick skin there. You have to have thick skin. You have to respect the tradition and the Jaguar Nation who travels a lot. They love their football team. They do great travel, so they have a right to have high expectations. I mean, it's always normally it's Jackson State and Southern leading the conference in attendance. It's gone down a little bit because the Southern folks decided to tailgate a little bit more rather than come inside the stadium. But I think and that's a high paying job too. I mean, that's a desirable job. It's desirable, but you have to understand what comes with it. It's different. You can't just you can't win the SWAC championship. You got to be Grambling. You got to be Grambling. I mean, that's just the way it is. So it's finicky, and whoever comes there is going to have to learn that. They're going to have to learn. So I think if you go with the star power route and bring some stars in there, I don't know if they would get it. Cornell Maynard has told me he has not talked to Southern at all. I asked him about it all. He said, Jay, it's a championship week. He's trying to win the championship, so he's not doing it. Now, off the record, you asked me, is that a good fit? Probably. Probably because, he knows what it takes to have to beat Alabama State in IDM. They got to win their classic, and now he's trying to win the championship. So, but there'll be some good names that'll be after that job there. And you got to look at the job Doc Gamble's done at Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Yeah.
I mean, give him the resources of a Southern and see what he can do. I'm sure that's what he wants to know. So, we'll see which direction they go. But Southern different. Always have been a little different now. You know that. So, finicky.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, growing up in New Orleans, I was born and raised there. I mean, I always tuned into the Bayou Classic. And, there was always something about Southern. I say Southern to me, they remind me of a HBCU version of Miami, like the early Miami, the swagger and the confidence that they actually have, and I feel like Cornell Maynard would fit in just fine, just his personality and how he is, and how charismatic he is and how he can get people to buy into what he's actually doing. I think he would fit. I think he'll fit in quite well. But if, he doesn't leave A&M, they're going to need someone with that type of charisma, with that type of confidence. And like you said, they have to have thick skin. They have to, because like you said, they gotta be Grambling. Nothing else matters. It's kind of the same way with Jackson State. Like you gotta be Alcorn. We don't care. We want a coach that can beat Alcorn. Like,
isn't this a great year? Wouldn't this be a great year to take over? If I'm gonna be a first year coach at Southern, I want the job now. Grambling down and out. So if you lose a couple games, okay, you better win the Bayou. No problem. At 1 game season, I got it. So now would be the time to go for that job if you want it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, wherever they get it, hopefully, they'll be able to, replicate or be, close to what Dawson Odom's little left behind. I mean, what a great human being. Just watching this guy interviews, why wouldn't you want to follow this guy? He's just a leader of men, and Norfolk State, they got themselves something special. No doubt about that.
I still go back to this. It took Southern University years to appreciate him.
Yeah.
It took him years. And then first chance he got, I'm not going to say first chance, but, there were some stories a couple years ago. He was thinking about leaving then and couldn't get it worked out. So congratulations, Coach Odom. As you said, great guy, great to be around. And, I'm just thinking, you had me thinking, you said earlier, the condition of Southern University when he took over. And that was when I think he replaced Stump Mitchell. And the program, the fans didn't like Stump. Fans didn't like the team. It was bad. And everybody thought Odoms was a temporary fix. They thought he'd be there for a year or two till we get somebody else. And he turned that to a pretty good run down there.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe they have what they're looking for right there. I like Lionel Washington. I do. I used to go to Lionel Washington football camp out there at Lutcher High School where he graduated from. And he's always, to me, like he's been there. And I think that, he'll have that same type of philosophy that Coach Odom's left behind if they're looking to try to replicate that. But finally, let's go ahead and talk about the SWAC championship. Arkansas Pine Bluff, you mentioned, head coach Doc Gamble got these guys rolling. They're led by their quarterback, Skylar Perry, not Tyler Perry, but Skylar Perry, Orleans native, just like myself. Looking at Arkansas Pine Bluff and Skylar Perry, and you think about Alabama A&M and Akil Glass, who's a guy who a lot of people are looking at as an NFL prospect. Skylar Perry's stats are kind of similar to that of Akil Glass. If you look at it, I think he has like 1,005 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks. Then you look at Akil Glass, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. What do you think about this game? Looking at this game, SWAC championship, what do you expect from these two teams?
See, there you go again. See, you being the homer, you cheering for your homeboy.
I got to.
Those numbers do look right. They both got 1,000 yards, like 1,085. But Queel Glass only played 4 games. Yeah. Remember, A&M had all their games canceled.
Right.
That was it. But Skyler, I like watching Skyler. I think that offense they've had, he was the big question mark going into the season. You knew they could score, and then he kind of split time a little bit last year with a quarterback, and then other quarterback left, so he made the most of his. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at how good he is. They're going to be all eyes on the Queel Glass, and rightfully so. He deserved it. He's had a fantastic year, but hey, give credit to Skyler. I'm looking forward to seeing him in person. I've seen him on film, but I'm looking forward to seeing him in person to see what he could do.
Yeah, and you mentioned lastly Akil Glass, right?
Queel.
I'm not being a Queel.
Queel, Queel. It is. Although there's no U there, there's a U there. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's spelled Aqueel. Okay. And there should be a U in there. So we were calling him Akil too for like a year or so, but it's a Queel.
Okay. A Queel Glass. I'm not being a homer. I think he's the best quarterback in the SWAC, and I think this guy can play on Sunday, and I think he could be a starting quarterback depending on if he goes to the right situation. Like if he goes to an offensive-minded head coach, I can see this guy playing on Sunday game in, game out. But you had opportunity to watch him. What makes him so special as a quarterback? Just your overall evaluation of him.
We hear a term often overused and talk about the quarterback position where, he has the ability to make all the throws. I can go out and make all throws, and I'm old. I can hit that out route, but it's having the ability to make all the throws when called upon. And when you get in the game, can you deliver? And I think that's what he can do. He's not afraid to make that tough throw to get it in game situations. And he throws the receivers open. We were talking for our production meeting, who does he compare to NFL-wise? When you look, I said there were 2 guys he reminds me of. One is Derek Carr, because they have a similar release a little bit, and you can tell they can be a little bit mechanical at times at the way they're coached a little bit. And 2, and I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you, but Drew Brees. The way where Brees can throw his receivers open. He puts the ball in the right spot. You see Brees' receivers, if they're making a back behind the shoulder catch, it's because they worked on that. When Brees is throwing that ball on the seam, we're away from the safety. where the wide receiver's not going to get hit. So I thought that was those comparisons there. And I mean, the sky's the limit for this young man. If he keeps it up, and you can tell he's benefited the most from Connell Maynard being his head coach. Yeah. I mean, I remember when he was a freshman and had the starting job, he was okay. And then he struggled as a sophomore through a lot of interceptions. But they've gone through it all. And, now he's receiving the fruits of his labor, and rightfully so. He deserves it. He's got the size, can throw, athletic enough at that position there. But he's a pocket passer that is comfortable in the pocket.
Yeah. There was 2 passes that I seen him throw against Jackson State, and I said, this guy can play on Sunday. It was one where the pocket was collapsing in front of him, and he just threw the ball, over the defenders into the hands of the running back in stride.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where I think they was in the red zone, and he knew for a fact he was going to get hit, and he still delivered the ball in the back of the end zone. I said, this guy can play on Sunday. Those were 2 passes I said that I believe this guy is going to be special. The only thing I see is probably like his down the field throws, his down the field accuracy needs some work. There was a couple passes I seen where guys were wide open. He just, overthrew them, So I feel like besides that, I feel like if he gets in the right system, he would be absolutely special. But I want to say thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. And let everybody know how they can, find you and get in touch with you.
Oh, man, no problem at all. Thank you for all the work that you do. I just happen to have a platform and, try to carry the message and share with America on a weekly basis whenever I get the opportunity. But I'm trying to represent for all of us HBCUs and the folks like you all that are paying that are doing the groundwork. I really do appreciate y'all. And thanks for having me on the show. If you want to hit me up, we got 2 places you can hit me up. You can hit me up at Jay Walker Sky. That's Jay Walker Sky. On Twitter. Then also we've got Black College Live. Hit us up on Black College Lives where we post all of our gimme fives and things of that nature. So looking forward to a championship game and looking forward to seeing everybody in the fall. Make sure everybody stays safe and healthy so we can do this the right way come September.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting your take of the SWAC championship game as well as your gimme fives. We look forward to that every halftime. So thank you so much. And, you be safe out there.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too.